So listen to yourself every single day. If you wake up tomorrow and go, I'm not going to do a very good job. I'm not equipped. I'm not capable. Somebody else could do it better. Man, you're not going to feel very good about yourself. If you wake up tomorrow and go, I'm going to give it my best shot. There is no competition in this world. I'm going to do what I need to do today to make myself proud. I'm telling you, by the end of the day, you're going to feel great when you go to bed.
What's going on, guys? It's Yahavy, David St. Clair Speaks. You are now tuned in to the St. Clair Speaks Show. You are now tuned in to the St. Clair Speaks Show. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the St. Clair Speaks Show podcast. I'm your host, Yahavy St. Clair. Guys, we are sitting with inspiration today. I am sitting down with Christine Handy, motivational speaker. Her story is inspiring, but no one can tell you no one can tell your story better than you. And I'm excited to hear a little bit more on Christine's story because as I'm reading up on it now, diving in depth, it's very touching, of course. And I want to get into it because when life gives you a second chance at life, you got a higher purpose. And Christine, there's no coincidence on why me and you cross paths. So break it down. I want to welcome you onto the St. Clair Speaks Show podcast. Tell us a little bit more about your brand, your story, and what brings you onto the St. Clair Speaks Show podcast.
Well, of course, to be with you. Who wouldn't want to be on your podcast? All the energy and just determination. Well, let me talk about that quote you said, which is, I think it's so important when life gives you a second chance. It's what you do with that second chance. And so for me, I did have a second chance, and I looked over at the past 40 years of my life and I was like, I did that wrong and I'm going to shift. But that takes a lot of courage and a lot of introspection. So to go back to starting with my story, I started modeling at a very young age, 11, actually. And I grew up thinking that my entire self-worth, self-value was only wrapped up into this facade, the external facade. That was it. Like, getting good grades in college and high school, it didn't matter at all. What I looked like was my value. Now, that's what I believed. But that was being reinforced, right? By culture, by society, by my modeling gigs, by my job, by my paycheck, by, my boyfriend or my husband, whatever. I was getting attention because of what I look like. And then when I started to have illness after illness after illness and ultimately cancer, and that external beauty was stripped away from me, I felt like I had no value. I had no value in my family. I had no value in society. I had no value as a model. Of course, that was gone. And so I was completely lost. And it took me months and months to figure out that the materialism that I tried to fill me up with, the society's accolades that I tried to fill me up with, the big blonde hair in Dallas, the diamonds, the bags, whatever it was, none of that mattered. And it wasn't filling me up. So now, okay, take all that away. What was I going to do with that? And I thought, you know what? I'm going to write a book. This is a good story because I'm going to tell people what not to do. I want to show them that society, they'll draw you in and they will spit you out, and they don't care. So you have to build your life from within. You have to build your self-confidence and your self-care and self-love as a daily practice, because man, when things are tough, which by the way, everybody's going to go through hardship, you've got to figure out who you are inside. And that determination, that courage that you've got inside, that's what will get you through.
Whew. Man. All right. We're going to dive into it. This is going to be a good one. Let me sit up because this is going to be a good one. You said something right off the jump. It's what you do with that second chance, and what you're doing with that second chance. It's inspiring. Tell us about the second chance. Tell us about, what does that second chance look like? What does it feel like? Do you feel, I hate to say this. Do you think all of that was supposed to happen for you to find your purpose like this? What do you think? What's your thoughts?
Hard to say. I will tell you that I take every single day as a second chance. It's a new opportunity. So a lot of people, especially right now, we're in January and people have New Year's resolutions, and I don't dismiss those at all. Good for you. But 70% of the time, the New Year's resolutions fail because they're one time a year. People focus on it one time a year. I focus on self-care, self-love, and introspection, getting to know myself better every single day. Listen, there were so many tapes in my head for years that would say, you're not valuable. You're not worth anything. You're not smart enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not wealthy enough. And if you look around, all around, like you're in New York, look around, look at the billboards, look at everything you see, turn on the TV, and society will tell you that. It's everywhere. But if we have the self-confidence and the self-esteem inside, if we build that up, if we take care of those voices and stop those negative voices and stop that negative tape that goes on your head, we have an opportunity every day to use our stories, to use our courage and influence other people. Like, I'm not on this podcast for me. It's not about Christine Handy. It's about helping other people grow in the knowledge of themselves, right? I mean, isn't that why you do this? It's not self-serving. It's trying to lead and inspire people from a different way, not from what we see on TV, not from what we see outside in the world.
Very good. No, very good point. You know, you're not doing this for you. You know, you're being selfless in a way. You know, just you're putting yourself aside and you're leading with the message, right? You're leading with that purpose. Being a cancer survivor, you know, that for me, that's touching because I lost someone with cancer that I was dating. So that for me is something where it's like, man, every time I meet a survivor, it's like, man, like I love to hear the stories because, you know, it's a blessing to be here. It's a blessing to tell that story. And someone laying in that bed right now needs to hear this, right? They need to hear the story, knowing that, hey, life's not over. It's not over till you say it's over. And,
you know what? Let me interrupt you for a second.
Go ahead.
I was very good at my job. I was a very good model. I still model. I'm walking in New York Fashion Week for 4 different brands this spring. Nice. But most of the things that I've accomplished are after the age of 43, which is when I completed my chemotherapy. The greatest things that I've accomplished, the greatest serving that I've ever done, that I have a best-selling book out. It's being made into a film. All these things that I've done to help other people, my greatest accomplishments have come after chemotherapy, after my arm was fused, after all this trauma. There is no ceiling to what we can accomplish, especially after we're giving a second chance. It's just a matter of choosing how you're going to live that second chance. Listen, every day, all that we have is our reaction, right? Like I was just driving down the street in Miami and somebody pulled out in front of me. My reaction dictates my day. Am I going to be like one of those crazy fools who screams at somebody on the road? How do I know what how do I know what kind of day that person's had? Right. And so it's our reaction is our responsibility. And so my reaction to my trauma has been like, I don't want anybody else to feel as bad as I did. I don't want anybody else to depend on external because it can be taken away. I don't want anybody to be as lonely as I was in my life for 42 years. And so by changing that, by sharing my story, which by the way, takes courage because it's vulnerable. And a lot of us don't want to be vulnerable. And by the way, if you read my book, if you pick up my book, there's a lot of stuff that's not very flattering about me. But if we only share part of the story, the flattering part of the story, people don't need that. They need the good, the bad, and the ugly. They want to know how to get through it, right? So it's our reaction. That's it.
First off, I got to break down a couple of things that you just mentioned. It's all about the reaction, right? We're pretty much manifesting that reaction in hindsight. Life is what they say, 80-90% on how you react to it. But you also made a key point of all of, like the big things that you're doing now is after the fact of chemo and after the fact of being 40. So that's big too. That's another key thing that, hey, like, it's never too late to start now. Never. It's never too late to start now. So talk us through this motivational speaking. Like, what has that journey been like for you to find your confidence, your power voice to tell your story? Because as you said, the keyword vulnerability, it takes that. So how do you get to this point where you can just tell this story with such confidence?
A lot of introspective work on self-esteem. when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I was so lost and I had no value. I felt like I had no value. My self-esteem was completely shattered. I had just come off a year of arm difficulties. I had a surgeon that was bullying me. My arm ultimately was fused. I became handicapped. I'm in chronic pain. And then I was diagnosed with breast cancer, an aggressive form of breast cancer. So everything in front of me was pain, suffering, death, possibly. And getting stripped away of what I believed that my value was. Again, it was the external beauty. And so I was like, this is it. I'm done. Like, I'm not moving forward in life. Like, I'm draining all of my resources from my family, my friends. I'm a burden. I'm not contributing. And so my mentality was, there's no value for me anymore. So I might as well just quit. But I had a group of women who stood by my side during this journey with breast cancer and said, your value is not based on what you look like. Your value is not based on what you have, like physically have. And we're not going to forsake you. And I was like, really? But I can't do anything for you. It's not transactional. Most of our world is transactional. If you do this for me, I'll do this for you. And they were like, it's not transactional. No, we're going to sit with you season after season. And if it's painful season after painful season, it's okay. And I couldn't believe them. So about a month into chemotherapy, they were still sticking by my side. In fact, there were more women and it was becoming a bigger group. And then the community that I lived in, they were watching this. They were seeing people parade to my house each week. And that started to influence them. Then the police department in my town used to come over and bring me like a snack or just show up at my door, just encourage me, because now the whole community was being part of this effort to help me, to teach me that I was valued and that my life had meaning. And it was like this wave effect, right? And so when I was finished with chemotherapy, they said, you know what, now it's your turn. And I took that very seriously as like, well, if they can do this for me, how many people can I do this for? And so it was almost like I was a model for 40 years to prepare me to be in front of a camera, to be in front of an audience, to share the story. Because the bigger the platform, the more people you can inspire, right? So that's the decision I made. But that was my reaction. That was their reaction. And then it was my reaction.
I love how I love how you broke down. Now it's my turn. It's just the foreshadowing that is very interesting. That you took that and you ran with that. Like, you really took it and ran with it, and you made it a story. And from that story, you created community. And with that community, there's so much more stories out there that people are finding their voice and they're finding the strength and courage. And I was going to ask you, I think my next question, I think you kind of touched on it a little bit, was, the importance of a community and support system. And that community and support right there is what kind of like pushed you. Can you talk about the importance of that?
Critical. I mean, right now, how many of us are feeling lonely, and not maybe so much now because things are more open, but the first year of the pandemic, how many of us maybe thought about ending our lives? I mean, suicide rate is gone up so much. It's so sad. But loneliness, lack of community, isolation, those are things that make people depressed. That's not my opinion. I'm not a psychologist. Just Google it. And so community it doesn't have to be tons of people, but you have to have a core group of people. You can't go through life without people. We have to be connected. When I was going through chemotherapy, my oncologist said, you need to be touched now more than ever. Because I had a port in my chest for the, chemotherapy to come in. So when they were sticking those needles in my chest every week for 28 weeks, and not just the chemotherapy, but the times I had to go to the hospital for fluids and other times, or when I was having surgeries, they're cutting on you. That's physical pain. And that's traumatic, right? And so for my friends, they would just rub my feet. They would rub my arm. They would scratch my back, because you need to negate that. You need to have kind touch. With all physical pain, you need to have some kind touch, right? And that's true of everybody. People need to be hugged. People need to be seen. And we don't need to just text people. We need to see people. We need to FaceTime people. We need to talk to people. We need to Zoom with people if we can't be there in person, because it's critical to our well-being.
No, it's key. No, make a lot of good points right there. Make a lot of good points. I think also being a part, like once you experience what you experienced and you went through what you went through, you don't take that for granted. You definitely don't. And I commend you on that. That's big. That's huge. So tell us a little bit more on, okay, now we know the backstory and like how you got to this point. Tell us all of the amazing work that you're doing within the industry, within the space of just telling that story, pushing more people to find their confidence and their strength and being a part of their community, even if they don't have one. You touched on something, now I'll let you go. Isolation, a lot of people feeling lonely. Me, for one, man, was I feeling lonely during this pandemic. Thank God I launched a podcast because I'm an introvert. And if it wasn't for this, I would just stay in the corner and not talk to anyone. So can you tell us a little bit more on that?
On isolation?
I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. On the incredible work, I'm sorry. On the work that you're doing now, the current work that you're doing now with the novels and the film and speaking.
So I do a lot of different things. And I would like to say that my daily walk, my daily work, all has to do with serving. So whether it's talking about my book called Walk Beside Me, or having the book being made into a film called Willow, the feature film, or working with nonprofits. I'm on the board of 2 nonprofits. All of that work is serving. If I'm speaking, if I'm being interviewed, if I'm walking down the street, and like this morning, I was walking down the street and this woman dropped a package. What do? I try to hurry up to pick it up for her. Every part of my day, every part of my life is trying to serve because people need that. People need to be loved. That's one of the most important things in the world is just to love. And so if I can show love in every single walk that I'm walking in, then by the end of the day, I can sleep at night going, I did everything that I could today to help other people. And that gives me comfort. It's kind of selfish, I guess. I also go to school. I'm going to Harvard because I had terrible chemo brain after I went through chemotherapy. And so I didn't have the self-confidence, 20 years ago to apply to an Ivy League school. But once you're faced with death, like is right in my front door, I was like, well, what's going to happen if they say no? Who cares? But I'm going to put myself out there. And if 10 people say no, or if 10 universities say no, if I try to do this project and they say no, at least I know I tried. And so I go to Harvard University because they said yes. And I've been there for a year and a half and my chemo brain is completely gone because I needed to help my brain get back there. But it was my job, my responsibility. I think so much of my life before I was diagnosed with cancer was, oh, well, my husband should do that. My husband should make me feel better, or my kids should fill me up, or, my job should be this rewarding. No, they don't have, that's not their responsibility. It's my responsibility to take care of myself. It's my responsibility to nurture my self-esteem. It's not on anybody else. And so when you take that seriously, you do the work. You don't wait around for other people to do it. I'm my biggest cheerleader. Why? I believe in myself. Did I 10 years ago? No, but I've worked on it. I did the hard work to do it. And now I'm showing people how to do that because I know how bad I felt. I don't want people to feel that bad.
If you could describe you with one word, what would it be?
Determined.
Okay, I wrote down something else.
What'd you write down?
Fearless.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of words that you can say about me. I was recently with somebody a few weeks ago and they go, I can't figure you out. You're like nobody else I've ever met. And I was like, I take that as a great compliment. I do hear that a lot, by the way, because I just don't live the life that people expect me to live. One, if you go through the trauma that I've been through 23 non-elective surgeries. I have a fused arm. I'm scarred everywhere. I have a concave chest. I'm in constant pain. And most people who've walked my walk would have quit. They would be barely surviving. I'm thriving because of what I've done with that. And so I don't think that there's many people out there like me. And I don't say that in a flattering way. I live my life to my own beat. That's it.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my gosh. I was close with Fearless. I was in a ballpark, and it's funny how you say, some people say, oh, I've never met anyone like you, or I'm kind of getting that same kind of vibe, because it's like, like you said, when you've been through what you've been through, you've seen that end of the spectrum, you don't come back the same person. You don't come back the same person at all. So the things that, one person may take for granted, you don't take for granted whatsoever. So I just think that's,
I have hair on my head. I think I won the lottery because I have hair in my head. I did not have hair in my head when I went through chemotherapy. And when I tried to go to sleep at night and I didn't have my hair to cover my ears, that was traumatic for me. I am so happy that I have freaking hair on my head. And people wake up and they have hair and they have life and they're healthy and they go, I'm so mad because, whatever. And I'm like, you have hair on your head. Like, be grateful for that.
It's crazy because as you're saying that, like, I'm looking at your Wikipedia, and like you even have like the image when you didn't even have hair in your head. To looking at you now, it's just like, and listening to your stories, man, I'm catching all this inspiration full throttle. You know what I mean? But it's amazing. Health is wealth. Thank you for streaming this episode of the St. Clair Speaks Show podcast. Don't forget to visit StclairSpeaks.com and order your copy of my first book, Sweats to Suits, available now in Kindle and paperback edition. If you want to be my next guest, or my next guest, give me a referral, and I will sponsor your business in an ad segment just like this. Visit StclairSpeaks.com and learn more about the St. Clair Speaks Show podcast proposal. It's that time. So let me ask you this, Christine. What is the message that you're portraying now? Like, what is the message that you're pushing now here in 2022 for not just, just everyone in general? What is the message now?
Well, my message is always hope. There is always hope. Even in the most despair, there is always hope. That's one message. The other message that I'm really honing in on right now is because I have a concave chest. I did not have a concave chest after breast cancer. I had implants. I loved them. They worked for me. And then right in the beginning of the pandemic, I got a staph infection in my left breast implant because I had mastectomy. So I didn't have breasts anymore. And I'm not going to bore you with the details, but ultimately my breast cavities were excavated for the third and fourth time. So technically I've had 4 mastectomies. That's insane. And there was no chance of reconstruction. So I have a concave chest. Well, it turns out there's a lot of people that have concave chests. And it turns out that a lot of those people feel shame and feel disfigured and feel alone in their pain and their disfigurement. And so I said, you know what? I don't feel great in this either. This isn't what I signed up for. I would like to look like a woman. And, I did look like a woman. And so I started to play around with different ideas for a bikini top for women with a concave chest. I played around with ways to help women with a concave chest. So now my modeling, which I've been doing for 40 some odd years, I'm modeling for New York Fashion Week with a concave chest, and brands are loving it because they're like, okay, not only can we showcase our brand with a model that's a long time model, we can showcase it with a purpose, right? So I'm going up to New York this weekend for a fitting and for one of the shows and Showcase Entertainment, and PBS are filming it because they're like, okay, you've taken this terrible situation and you're turning it into something that this huge demographic of people who are feeling alone in their body are going to be able to look at you in New York Fashion Week and go, if she can rock the red carpet, if she can rock New York Fashion Week with a concave chest and very tight fitting clothing, I can do it. I can walk outside of my house with the same thing, or I don't have to wear a sports bra to bed with my husband, because a lot of them do because they're ashamed. And so right now I'm trying to inspire, I'm trying to lead those people because they need somebody.
I think representation is key, but man, the body positivity, that is great. That is amazing. I love how you found a blessing in everything, and you used your previous success and your past experiences with modeling, being a fashion designer, combining the two and being that representation on Front Street. That is great. It's just amazing how that all worked out for you. And this is something my mentor always told me, never let pain go to waste. And you didn't waste none of that pain. It didn't go in vain at all. You made Man, that's so inspiring. Man, so you're going to be in New York?
Yeah. I'm walking in four different brands. I'm walking in New York Fashion Week in February for their spring shows.
Nice. So tell us, now I kind of want to like dive into a little bit more on like story going into the film and going to that. So tell us a little bit on how did you get to the point where, okay, you found the inspiration to write, but how did you go from writing to film? How did that transition happen?
Well, fortunately, I didn't have to because I know nothing about the film industry. But I was approached right after my book was published by an entertainment lawyer to make my book a series, a TV series. And we had really good conversations and I signed a contract with him and then it just kind of fizzled out. And about a year after that, I was approached by a group out of Miami, a production company. And they said, well, we're going to make you, we're going to take your book and we're going to make it into a screenplay and we're going to do some filming on you and, kind of promote who you are and your brand. And then we'll announce the film. And I was like, I'll sign up. No problem. Sounds great. So they wrote the screenplay and the screenplay looked nothing like my book. It was like a extraterrestrial movie with a woman who had cancer. And I said to them, I think we have to amicably like part ways. So we did. We still keep in touch. They're great people. And then a guy out of Boston approached me and he said, I'm an Oscar award-winning screenplay writer. This is what I make to write a screenplay. I'm not charging you anything. I want your book so badly to be in a film because your story needs to be told. And one of the reasons why he said that was because he said, if you go through the history of films and you look at the cancer patients or the sick patients or a movie even like Philadelphia, right, with Tom Hanks, the AIDS patient, what's the end of the story? They die. And he said, we have to showcase your film. We have to showcase your book because you're survivor. Like we have to show survival. This is the time we have to show survival. And I was like, where do I sign up? And so it's been in production since 2018. It's a long process. It takes a long time to have a film made, but he's in charge of that. I'm just luckily watching and standing by and enjoying the process.
That is so awesome. What are you learning? Like even being in the process of just like being in the moment, just like learning from the sideline or just like being active on scene. What are you learning? Like, are there like new sparks of inspiration flying for you? Like, is there more that you want to do in that space in particular to tell different stories or?
I'm learning that people are desperate for honesty. I'm learning that the bigger the platform I have, the more people I can inspire. And so it's not that I'm trying to find ways to get more followers. I'm trying to find bigger audiences because I'm doing the same thing every day, right? And so whether I'm doing it in front of 10 people or 1 million people, I get to affect more lives. And so every day that I wake up, I say to myself, how can I inspire today? What else can I be doing? Because when I tell you I felt desperate and my loneliness was total despair and the pain in my life was debilitating, I'm serious about that. Like there were stages of my life where I wanted to take my own life. I don't want people to feel that bad. And so I'm also serious about my healing and I'm serious about helping other people heal. And so if I can show grace, I can show determination, I can show, you know what? Instead of having chemo brain, I went back to school. Or you know what? Instead of having a concave chest and putting prosthetics, I'm flaunting it. And I'm modeling in New York Fashion Week. Hey, you know what? Instead of having a fused arm and complaining about the chronic pain, I'm going to show the world how I can walk every single day. I wear a sling, but I'm out there walking. And so if you just show these stories, if you show this confidence, if you show this determination, somebody's going to, take note. Somebody's going to feel like they can do it. Somebody else is going to take off the prosthetics. Somebody else is going to, whatever. It's this wave effect, right? And who wouldn't pick that? It's such a privilege to inspire other people. It's such a privilege to wake up today and say, how can I serve other people? Who wouldn't want to sign up for that? Like, I don't want to go shopping. I don't want to go meet my friends for lunch. I want to do this. I want to get my story out because there's too many people that need it.
Man, spot on. Spot on. It's definitely a blessing to be a blessing. But definitely.
Right. I mean, we all have a lot of stuff, right? Do I need more stuff? No. I mean, we don't need more stuff. We need to help.
We need more stories.
We need more stories. We don't need more stuff. It's, you know,
need more stories.
There is no U-Haul behind the hearse. You cannot take it with you. So do you need it? Not really.
No. Yeah, all good points, Christine. Like, look, the way you're breaking it down, look, I'm sold on. One thing I'm sold on is not wasting a moment, not wasting an opportunity. There's a quote, there's a saying, there's nothing more expensive than a missed opportunity. We miss opportunities all the time because we're not locking in, we're not focusing on the details of our everyday life. We're not tracking our habits, whatever. And we're letting these things snowball into bigger things. And being that it may, just because you ignore a problem doesn't mean it goes away. It builds up and it's collecting more problems and it's heading your way. So I think, not running from it, tackling things head on, showing up as your authentic self, get a lot of inspiration here because it's true. It's what you do with that second chance. And I didn't even mention this. I was working this insurance job. I had to quit this job because it was killing my entrepreneurship creativity. Had to go. I'm like, had to go. I wasn't podcasting, wasn't feeling like myself. People need me. I'm the one with the host. I'm the host. I bring on the guests. I interview. I hear incredible stories. And if I'm not going to take the risk on me, I'm not catching this interview right now, right? I'm not getting this inspiration. So it's also, I also believe that it's also taking a stand for your life and what you want and not settling and being okay with the turbulence that you're going to experience on the journey of what you're trying to pursue, because it's not all beauty. Sometimes it gets ugly. It gets ugly. And man,
listen, I've had more doors slammed in my face. I've had more doctors say, you're not going to survive. I could have quit a long time ago. It's the people that stick out the middle. They're the ones that, persevere. Listen, there's always doors that will be slammed in our face. Look at the pandemic. I was a motivational speaker. I'm like well on my way to be a speaker, and all of a sudden the pandemic and there's no speaking gigs. So what do? I start doing interviews because there's always a way to get your story out. You just have to find a different way.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you make such Christine. I feel there are some people, and this is what I've learned in my almost 2 years of podcasting. There are different types of interviews that I do. There are the interviews where it's like I keep it like, regular interview format. And there are interviews where it's like, I feel like I met you in my past life or something, where it's like, it's just like open conversation and that fourth wall is broken down. I just love how, I love it because.
What a privilege.
It is a privilege because you turned one of your, I can't even say one of your lowest moments, but one of your most painful moments into like your purpose of a story. And that was just like your drive force. And it's like, boom, now you're here. And it's like, damn, like, bro, like, who am I to quit right now? And there's someone that always has it worse. And there's someone that's always going through something that, money can't fix or money can't buy. And that's another thing. Someone said this, if money is your problem, you don't really have a problem. And like something with health, especially with cancer and with COVID and all of this, man, like I don't take good health for granted.
Yeah. Exactly.
Man. Yeah. Oh, Christine, you're firing me up today.
Sometimes you have to hit, sometimes you have to get hit against the wall to wake up. And I did.
Oh yeah.
I woke up.
Yeah, that's what it takes in it. And hey, now we're here. Now we're up. So that's good. So let me ask you this. We're on a topic of speaking and telling stories. What's the agenda for 2022? What are you pushing with your story now? Talked about the film. We talked about the book. Are there more books that you're working on in terms of projects and webinars? Or do you have anything like that coming up in 2022 we should look forward to?
Yeah. I mean, there's always, yes. There's a documentary on PBS that I'm a part of. I am always trying to find different ways, obviously, to get my story out. I am writing a second book. I actually finished it a few years ago, but now I'm getting my master's degree at Harvard. And so I'm basically editing that same book. My first book is a fictional depiction of my life. The second book it's not at all based on my life. It's just maybe kind of what I want my life to look like now. And, my first book is it's very dramatic, but it's proper. It's my second book is got sex scenes and it's not very proper, but I love to write. It's one of my passions. I wasn't trained to write before I wrote my first book. I'm trained to write now. And so whether it's writing articles, Authority Magazine, there was an article that came out about me on yesterday. And so, there are stories within the story. Certain people pick up part of my story, then other people want to talk about other parts of my story. And so I'm just, my day-to-day walk is just doing, whether it's TV interviews or podcasts or news interviews or written interviews, I'm just trying to get it out there.
If you only were granted 2 minutes, only 2 minutes to have a conversation with 21-year-old Christine,
whoa,
and you have 2 minutes to get an important message across, what are you saying to yourself at 21 years old and you only got 2 minutes?
Oh, this is so easy for me. You matter. You're worthy. Work on your self-esteem every day. You're a champion. You're enough. And keep going. And don't let other people dim your light. And I got you. I got you. I look at a picture of myself every day as a child, and I look at that picture and I go, I will never, ever, ever not stand up for you. Because I didn't stand up for myself for a long time. I was bullied by many people. I was emotionally abused. I've been physically abused. A lot of the stuff that I don't normally talk about, I'm not afraid to talk about it. I will never allow anybody to abuse me. I will never allow anybody to dismiss me or to manipulate me or hurt me. But it took me, again, like being pushed into a fire to realize that I mattered and I had to stand up for myself. I couldn't wait for somebody else to stand up for me. And so I would talk for 2 minutes nonstop. I would tell that little girl, I'm a 21 girl, I'm here for you. You're worthy. You are enough. You're okay. I got you.
I like how you had and like that. I got you. Like I got you. I like it.
Yeah. That's so critical. Yeah. So critical.
Yeah, it is critical because no one has you like you. If you don't show up, who's going to show up for you? If you didn't show up and you're going through that battle and you were just ready to quit, then what? You showed up in that moment. You showed up.
I did eventually. I had people that cheered me on. Fortunately, who got me through the first couple of weeks. But once they got me through the first couple of weeks, I started to show up for myself. But sometimes that happens in life where we have to have our network of people. I call it a courage net. We have to have the people in our net or in our life be that courage for us until we can stand on our own 2 feet. So that's why you have to pick people very carefully. You have to have people in your life that aren't going to just be there for the high times. They have to be there. You have to pick people that care about the low too.
And I can't have one thing I can't have yes men around me. You got if I'm tripping, let me know if I'm tripping. Christine, and like if we're doing an interview and I'm messing, let me know. Don't have me out here looking all great. Yeah. I think also the importance of having people that are just blunt and straightforward with you in your circle. Yeah, you got to have that. I think that's what tripped me up before.
Authentic people. We don't want people blowing smoke up our ass. We want people that are telling us, and by the way, failure is ultimately success. If I had not failed, especially with illness, if I had not failed, I would never be doing what I'm doing. I'd still be living that very lonely, lack of self-worth, materialistic life. That was empty. I would never be here. I would never be doing this. So failure for me, when I was pushed against the wall with those 3 major illnesses, that propelled me to do what I'm doing. So never look at failure as something that's bad. It's a tool. It's a teaching opportunity.
That's very good point. Man, I love failure, man. I love it mainly because, it shows me ways on how to win. And like you really study failure. It shows you a lot. I personally feel, based on my experiences in life, like I've learned more from my failures than I have from my wins. Like when I win, it's like I get so caught up in the win when I lose it, for some reason, it just forces me to sit down and just study and break things down. I swear that's how I am when things don't go my way. That's why I hope it just goes my way, because when I come back, I'm going to come back better, because I'm not going to waste that loss. And I'm just not going to frame it as a loss, but a lesson that I could just, turn into something in the near future.
Exactly. Yep.
Man, this was a good conversation. I really enjoyed this. I really did enjoy this. Closing thoughts, Christine. What is the biggest, what would the big takeaway be for, anyone listening to this episode? What is the message that you want to leave with the audience?
I think one of the biggest takeaways would be listen to your own voice and really take those thoughts captive. And even if you're criticizing yourself, like I'll give you a small example. I was playing tennis a couple of weeks ago and I said, I hit a terrible shot. And I was like, you suck. I actually said that out loud. And I stopped and I thought about it for a second. And I said to myself, well, you don't say that to yourself anymore. That's the old version of you. But if we don't listen for those voices, if we don't take those thoughts captive, we'll repeat them. And so I had to stop that thought. I had to replace it with something like, I'm out here trying, give me a break. And if we don't recognize those thoughts, we can't replace them. So listen to yourself every single day. If you wake up tomorrow and go, I'm not going to do a very good job. I'm not equipped. I'm not capable. Somebody else could do it better. Man, you're not going to feel very good about yourself. If you wake up tomorrow and go, I'm going to give it my best shot. There is no competition in this world. I'm going to do what I need to do today to make myself proud. I'm telling you, by the end of the day, you're going to feel great when you go to bed. It's self-talk. It's so simple. It took me 45 years to figure it out.
Man, self-talk is extremely important. I don't think we're doing enough of that. No, it's critical. Because, a good way to put it is, no matter how much people you talk to, you're not going to talk to anyone more than yourself.
Critically, yes. Yeah.
Man, this was good. Oh, man. Okay. In closing, guys, I want to thank you. I want to thank everyone for listening to this episode. So much inspiration. Man, Christine, you got me. You got me like, I don't know. I feel there's a word. I just can't frame it, but I feel like I'm right on time. I'm right on cusp. Like this was the interview and the conversation that I was trying to catch. And I feel like the universe was pushing me to meet someone to catch like a story of inspiration just like this. And I'm glad that we had the honor to cross paths because, man, like if there's one thing I don't take for granted is I don't take this podcast for granted. And I don't take people's, their stories, their personal experience of just, coming on here, being vulnerable, sharing, some of these moments. And man, like you said, it's not for you, you're inspiring other people, but it doesn't go on deaf ears. So I don't take it for granted. So I just wanted to say thank you.
It's my pleasure. Can I end with one other thought?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Throw out your wisdom like confetti. If you think about like fireworks, and if you think about your wisdom, throw it out like fireworks. It's such a gift for people and it's such a privilege. Just keep doing it. People will catch it. People need it.
I like that. All right. That was good. All right, guys. So I want to thank you for streaming this episode of the StclairSpeaksShow Podcast. Don't forget, if you heard this interview from start to finish and Christine said something really inspiring, in the description, there are going to be StclairSpeaksShow show notes. So highlighted moments and timestamp. There are tons of different topics and questions that we talk about when we dive into this episode. You don't want to miss it. Just make sure you stay up to date with the show notes and don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and subscribe to the StclairSpeaksShow Podcast. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Like always, what good is information if you don't apply it? Apply what you've learned from this interview. There are a lot of hidden gems. It's in the details. Just focus on your life and the controllable and leave alone the non-controllable and show up as your authentic self. I'll catch you guys in the next one. I'm out.